wanted to talk to you a little bit about trading. I wanted to share a little bit about how the effect that it's had on my life. I want to talk to you a little bit about the promises that I made as a trader very, very young in my journey. I started in the very early 1980s, and I started trading, guys, at a time when there were no mentors, there were no teachers, there were no courses, there were no programs. There was no YouTube, there was no online chats and things of that nature. There was no one willing to really go out of their way to share one's experience at this. When I started in the markets in the early 1980s, it was all about trial and error. You had to actually just try things. And if they didn't work, you lost your money. Now, what was also very interesting about this time, guys, is that there were no ways to practice. There are tremendous ways to practice now, but there were no ways to practice when I first started. I want you to try to transport yourself back to this time. No one's willing to show you anything. There's no one around. There's no one to talk about. There's no one really that even knows what this activity is about. Trading, it's more prevalent today. There was no way to practice, so there were no demos. There were no trading platforms to utilize. So you really had to open up like a brokerage account, put some money in it, and you had to try things. But try things from what? Try things from where? Try things from whom? There were very, very few books written on professional trading and how to do it properly. And a lot of the books that I actually got my hands on at the time, they were written in the 1930s and the 1950s. I remember reading Edwards and McGee, which is the first technical analysis book that I ever picked up. It was this thick, giant encyclopedia-like thing that gave me a basis for trying certain things from a technical perspective. But then how could you really apply that when there was no such thing as a technical platform that you got real-time charts on? No, these things didn't exist. I believe that my journey in trying to do this, I wanted to do this more than anything in life. I felt I found an activity that resonated with my soul, with my heart, and that I would never get bored with, and something that challenged my intellect and kept me focused. I found that thing. And I felt blessed because of it, because I think that most people never reach a point where they find that thing. They find something that they're so passionate about, that they're willing to give their life over to it. They're willing to give most of their time. And time is the stuff that our life is made up of, right? So when you give the majority of your time to something, that's giving your life to it, because our time is the most precious commodity we have. It's the thing that's the most limited in our lives. Most of us on average have about 80 to 85 years left in our life if we take the average lifespan. And so if you dedicate a lot of that 85 years to something, you're dedicating the majority of your life to. Well, trading was that activity. It bit me so hard, guys. And I know that what I'm saying resonates with some of you. I know this activity that we call trading has bitten some of you just as hard as it bit me 40 years ago. I know this because this activity has that thing about it, you know? It has that call to independence, that call to someone who innately respects freedom. And it bit me like nothing else in my life up until that point had bit me before. And so I wanted nothing else in life but to do this. There was no one around. There was no help. There was no one to go to. No one who I could consider a more advanced brother or sister to show me the ins and outs, or show me, okay, this is a dead end. Don't do that. This is a landmine. Forget about that. So without that, you were forced at the time with real money to open up a little account. I opened up an account at a company called Wall Street Securities at the time. And that actually became TD Securities, basically. TD Bank, in which TD Securities became TD Bank. But at the time, it was just a small brokerage company. It had a number of different offices throughout the United States or what have you. And at that time, what you had to do was open up a small account at a firm like this firm that I did, and you had to just try things. There was no one to say, well, no, you're doing that wrong. This could be done a little bit better. There was no one to review. So what I did was just basically put a list of things to try. It was all trial and error. How I knew that something didn't work was when I lost my entire account on it. So if I had a list of 8 things to try, the way I determined if it was valid enough was if I lose my whole account trying item number 1, I know that doesn't work. And when I lost all my whole account, I would actually go try to scurry and rummage up enough to refund my account. When I got old enough, I signed up for, hey, this is so funny. I signed up for a temp agency because I never, ever wanted to work full time. Guys, I've never had a full-time job because I refused to, because it would interfere with my trading. But what I did do is go to a temp agency, a temporary agency that would place you for little projects, 2 weeks, 4 weeks. And I told them, don't place me for anything more than 4 weeks. Sometimes they would come and, hey, Oliver, this is a 6-week one. We can't do a 4-week one right now. And I would take it because I needed to fund my account again. I would work that 4 to 6 weeks without trading, but still looking at the markets. When I had enough, put the money back into the account and go to item number 2 on my list. And if I lost my whole account on item number 2, I went back to the drawing board, called up the temp agency. Do you have any projects? Do you have any assignments? Da, 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 da. And that's what I did for a number of years. The way I knew something had a little bit of promise is if I lost my account on it, but it took me longer. So if I lost my account on it fast, it was like nonsense. But if it took me a longer period of time to lose my entire account, I would put that to the side, like this has a little bit of promise. And that made my journey longer than it ever should have been. It made my journey harder than it ever should have been. I had no guidance. I had no structure. I was shooting in the wind, just randomly trying things. Some of you have probably done this too. Let me try this, right? I know it. This is like sort of, it took me about 6 years to finally gain my footing. I refused to give up. I came on the brink of breakdowns mentally because all of my friends were starting to progress in their careers. My family, my parents had sort of written me off. I remember my parents were like, Oliver, are you serious? Like, you gave up. We made sure you had one of the best educations that you could ever have in the United States. We sacrificed for that for you. And you're wasting it to play video games? Like, they thought it was video games. I was disappointing my parents. My friends were passing me by in their careers. And I was still trying to figure the markets out, not making anything, moving from friend's house to friend's house because several times I just got evicted from my little apartment, and it was hell. It really was. And there were moments that I wanted to really give up, but somehow every single time I would go to bed crying, right? I would literally cry. Sometimes I would go in the closet closed the closet door, and in the closet all night, just like, why? Like, why in the dark? Why? Why can't I get this? Why can't I do what I'm supposed to do? Why can't I? It was tough. It was tough. It was probably the toughest 6 years of my entire life. In the closet, in one of those nights, I remember this like it was yesterday. I was at my lowest, and I made a promise to my personal God that if you help me and allow me to do this, if I'm ever going to be successful at this, if I ever make it, I promise that I'm going to dedicate a portion of my life being a beacon light of hope, of encouragement, of information, knowledge, experience. I'm going to try to leave a body of work behind that prevents people that have the same passion that I had, but have nowhere to go, that don't know where to go, they don't have a connection to get a job on Wall Street and be trained in an institutional, professional way. And I made that promise.